Representational Qualia Theory consensus.
The clear consensus indicated by the camp score forming around representational qualia theory is surely because we all know, absolutely, we have qualia. What our qualia are like, and that our qualia represent our conscious knowledge of what is out there. Wikipedia and most other places on the internet consider Dennett and many others as polarized critics of qualia. But on Canonizer, you can see that Dennett's current predictive Bayesian coding theory is in a supporting subcamp position to the representational qualia theory supercamp. Supercamps are camps which focus on what everyone agrees on. The supporters of all these subcamps agree with the general predictions being made in representational qualia theory. This indicates that the only thing most people really disagree on is the nature of qualia. You can see here the many competing subcamps making different predictions about the nature of qualia. There are still some very smart people like John Smithies, a researcher at UCSD, pointing out the not yet falsified possibility that qualia could be separated from physical reality under the substance dualism camp. As you can see, substance dualism is a minority consensus camp. At the other end of the consensus spectrum are the currently leading functionalist camps. Functional property dualism and qualia emerge from function. If you add the score of these two camps when we shot this video, you get a consensus leading score of around 12 for functionalism. Both substance dualism and functionalism separate qualia from physical reality. Functionalists predict that in order to experience redness, all you need is some redness function that can be implemented, independent of or out of any particular substrate that functions correctly. Materialist theories predict that qualia are simply intrinsic qualities of something in the brain we can directly apprehend. Sir Roger Penrose and Orch Hameroff predict that qualia exist below the atomic level, and that the computational binding is accomplished via orchestrated collapsing of entangled quantum superpositions. They point out the facts that their claims are falsifiable, and that from their point of view, to date no facts or evidence have falsified their predictions about qualia. Since nobody knows which of our descriptions of stuff in the brain is a description of intrinsic redness, Orch OR and all competing camps can make this same our camp hasn't yet been falsified claim. Molecular materialists agree with Orch OR as far as qualia are intrinsic qualities of matter. They just predict that you don't need to descend into the subatomic quantum level to experience and describe different elemental qualia. In summary, most people agree that consciousness is dependent on our own personal intrinsic qualities like redness and greenness. There are just lots of different yet to be falsified predictions about the nature of these qualia, out of which consciousness is composed. Once we discover which of all of our descriptions of stuff in the brain is a description of intrinsic redness, this will falsify all but the one camp that can't be falsified. This will corral everyone into the same scientific consensus camp. Our goal is to track this as it happens in real time, but we can't do this without your help. Which camp are you currently in? It's a wiki with camps, so do you see anything in any of the camps that could be fixed? When we filmed this, only about 60 or so theoreticians had canonized their current views, so maybe your camp, showing how some of this is still wrong or incomplete, hasn't even been canonized yet. Whose fault is that? Is this video changing or clarifying what you currently believe? We keep a history of everything so we can see who were the first people in the one true camp. Unless people work collaboratively to communicate all this in the fewest possible camps, nobody can rigorously know what everyone currently believes. And as the adage goes, that which you measure improves. We don't want to measure the popular consensus because it is correct. We want to compare the popular consensus to the expert consensus. The experts need to rigorously know what everyone currently believes and why. Most arguments currently being repeatedly thrown around have zero converting power. This just polarizes everyone. The experts need to be able to track with arguments or evidence is more effective at getting more people to jump on board, so those arguments can be focused on. All this to accelerate the amplification of the wisdom of the crowd. By focusing on what people agree on in the super camps instead of polarizing, we can see this missing evidence that shows how much consensus can be built. proving how much consensus we have already achieved. Canonizer is meant to be a theoretical science consensus building tool with focus on falsifiability. Supporters of each camp are encouraged to describe what kind of scientific results would get them to abandon their camp, definitively showing they would consider their camp to be falsified. Then it is up to the experimentalists to perform those experiments as described by the theoreticians supporting the various competing camps. The scientific results of the described experiments allow nature to falsify and thereby corral everyone into the one camp that can't be falsified. At least one person has already abandoned their camp due to data they consider to be falsifying coming out of the Large Hadron Collider. All the supporting subcamps of Representational Qualia Theory agree that their camps could be falsified once experimentalists stop being qualia blind, since this would enable us to finally see which of all these different descriptions of stuff in the brain is a description of intrinsic redness. Once we have an intrinsic definition of redness, we'll finally be able to interpret things correctly, enabling us to finally see what color things really are, not just what color things seem to be.
We could use your support. There's a petition topic on Canonizer titled, "What are Color Qualities?" There is a link to the Demonstrate Subjective Qualities consensus camp in the description below. It would help if you would sign that consensus camp.